after watching that last video, I hope that the thing that's going on in your mind now is, okay, he said that we can graph a line with 2 points, and that the easiest 2 points to use for this are the x and y intercepts. The next thought should be, how do I find those? So that's what the goal of this is. This whole lesson is the goal of this particular video now is going to be how to show you how to do that with equations that are in the form that you're used to seeing right now, which is the slope-intercept form. So let's look at we're going to look at 2 or 3 examples. We'll see how the time goes. So with this first example here, we've got y equals 3x minus 9, and I'm going to write the equation down so we can work with it. Now, what I know is this is already in slope-intercept form, okay? Which means that, and I'm going to try and use the same colors I used before, which means your slope is 3, and then I think we used dark green, and then our y-intercept is negative 9. So I know from what we've learned that we already know what my y-intercept is. Okay, the y-intercept is negative 9. So you're already half of the way there with this problem. So you just go down to negative 9 on the y-axis because that's what the y-intercept is. Where does it cross the y-axis? So now, in order to find the x-intercept, I really need you to think about what that last concept we talked about at the end of the video right before this. And the concept we talked about, and I'm gonna write this out here, is that if you've got for your x-intercepts, all right, for your x-intercept, what that means, I'm going to write it down here so I won't have to move it when I start working with the equation. What that means is that you're going to have some number here, all right, and we're just going to call it x, where it crosses the x-axis, but your y-coordinate is always 0 because your x-intercept is where does it cross this axis. All right, and if you look at that, your y-coordinate, if you're on that axis, is 0. Similarly, with your y-intercept, it means that your x-coordinate is 0, which you can clearly see from that, and then you'll have your whatever your y value is. Okay, so I know my y-intercept, and that gives me the point 0, negative 9, right? But if I'm going to find my x-intercept, if I look at what I've got written here, make that connection that y is equal to 0. And then if you know that y is equal to 0, all you have to do, really, is take that y value, all right, and we're going to go back to using pink. Or no, actually, let's not use pink. Let's use red. I'm going to take this y value. We'll say this is my y value, and we're going to substitute it in for y in this equation. So you have 0, and then you write the rest of the equation out. Equals 3x minus 9. So what that does is that moves this to a one-variable equation, and you guys are rock stars at solving these now. You should know how to solve these, and you've seen them in many different forms and have done a lot of different things. And this is just basically a 2-step equation because you've got 3x minus 9 on one side and you got 0 on the other side. And so hopefully at this point you're going into overdrive saying, okay, put up my fence, cows and chickens, I believe is the way I tried to explain it to you guys. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by adding 9 to both sides. All right, so we're going to go plus 9, and then we have our equal sign. 0 plus 9 is 9. Your 9's cancel over here, and then you wind up with 3x equals 9. The next step is we are going to divide both sides by 3 because you want to get that coefficient in front of the variable to 1. All right, so divide by 3, and then you got x equals 3. And so what this gives me now is that gives me my x-coordinate. And so that gives me the point 30. Because if you put 0 in, right, and solve for x, you get x is equal to 3. So that would be my x-intercept. All right, and so you would just go to the point 30. We'll use black because that's what we've been using. And then we draw a line that goes through both of the points unlike what I just did there. All right, let's try that again. Let's go, I'll make it go over a little bit and then we'll swing it over. Well, you get the idea. It goes through both of the points. All right, so that's pretty much what you're doing. Let's try another example. So this one, again, is already written in slope-intercept form. So you've got y equals negative 3/2 x plus 3. So I know that this plus 3 over here is already my y-intercept, which is the point 0, 3. Okay, and I know that the x is 0 because it's an intercept. And on the y-axis, my x-coordinate is always 0. So you go up to the point 0, 3 and you put your point. And then if I want to find my x-intercept, all right, I'm going to make y equal to 0. All right, because that will help me find the point x, 0. So just rewrite this equation and substitute 0 in for y, which is what I did right off the bat. And then it's a matter of solving this. And this is a little uglier equation, but it's not too bad. All right, so you have 3 that's already being added to each side. So let's subtract 3 from both sides to get rid of that. You get negative 3, and you get negative 3/2 x. So you can approach this two ways. You can do the inverse reciprocal, right? The inverse, multiply by the inverse, or you could realize that you could do it in 2 steps and say, well, I could multiply both sides by 2 and then divide by negative 3. I'm going to do the reciprocal because it's faster. So you just take whatever is being multiplied by x and then you just flip it, basically. Use your reciprocal. So negative 2/3. All right, and you got to include the negative sign if you have that. All right, and then these cancel out, and then your negatives cancel out, and you get x. That's what you want. You have negative 2/3 times negative 3. Well, your 3's, let's put this over 1. And we know that if you have 3 over 3, which is what you're going to have even before you multiply it all out, those are going to cancel out, right? And so you're left with a negative times a negative, which gives you a positive, and then you would have 2 over 1, which is the same thing as 2. All right, so my x-coordinate, my x-intercept is going to be the number 2. All right, so let's put that in. And then let's take this, and let's draw a line that goes through them both. That was better than the last one. Still not perfect, but we're getting better. All right, and if you look at this, this makes sense because that looks like a slope of negative 3/2 now, doesn't it? And that would be go down 3 and over 2, perfect. All right, even though we did it with intercepts, we can check it using that other way. So this last example we have here, okay, oh no, I guess that was the last example I had. So I hope this is making a little bit of sense to you guys, and just understanding that for your x-intercept, you make y 0. For your y-intercept, you make x 0. And if you can remember that basic approach, you'll be able to solve these.